Hello, everyone. A very good evening to each one of you. So, a warm welcome to all of you. This is Khushi Malhotra, Operations Manager at the team MOS. So, it's a pleasure to have you all join us for today's webinar, How to Start as a DPO. So, we are delighted to have such an enthusiastic audience with us today, and I'm even more excited to introduce our esteemed speaker, Tanin. So, with over 18 years of experience, Tanin is a global data privacy officer at Biocon Biologics, ensuring compliance on a global scale. So, he is an FIP certified privacy expert from IPP, holding CIPPE, CIPM, and ISO 27001. His expertise span across GDPR, DPDP Act, privacy frameworks, risk management, and security controls. So I'm truly looking forward to learning from you today, Tanin. Even we all are looking forward to learning from you. So throughout this session, I would request the audience to feel free to drop your questions and thoughts in the comment section. And we are here to ensure an engaging and valuable experience with you all. So let's dive into today's topic. So Tanin, the floor is all yours.
All right, thank you, Kushi. Very welcome to everyone who has joined to the call. Uh, let's see. Am my screen visible now?
Yes, it's visible.
Fantastic. So we will be going to delve into the very important topic: how to start as a being a DPO. But first thing first, for all those ladies joining the call, wish you a very happy Women's Day. And the guys who are around you, make sure that you go ahead and wish your ladies and women around you a very happy Women's Day. A small gesture of appreciation can make their day a beautiful one. And let me also tell you that uh, this is not one single day. Every day we should be wishing them and making them feel that they are important for us also. All right, let's go ahead talk about what is data protection officer, what how to get into data protection officer role, and why it is needed to be part of this journey. So, Kushi has taken through the complete or the small snippet about me in my past experience. So, I hold a close to 19 years of experience. Have given various other roles and currently working as a global DPO. Now, how do I start and what is the requirement is all that I will be talking to it. And I'll be free to take all your questions at the end. Make sure you drop it over the comments and I'll take it through at the end. All right. So the purpose, obviously, to give you a knowledge of what happens in the organizations and how the things will be taken as a DPO, and making sure that you understand that the different aspects of it being a DPO. Now, one more thing that I would like to tell you that this is the presentation that I'm talking about. It's completely my views and doesn't have any others confluences or interference to it. My presentations too. Okay. So let me check uh, with all the people who have joined the call today. What comes in your mind when you hear the DPO? So you have four options on the screen. You tell me which option that you feel that is right. And Kushi can help me out because I cannot see the
Sure,
section at
sure,
the.
definitely. I'm
What do you
waiting
see?
for the audience to reply.
We'll take another 10 seconds. Hopefully, we get some answers from people. Is it
Sure.
legal compliance? Do you think it's a risk or is just the data protection?
We are getting all of above as the answer.
Fantastic. Then I think everyone on this call are on the same page. Yes, it has a legal compliance. It has a risk that we manage and obviously protect the data. And hence, obviously, this call is data protection officer. And and the correct answer is all of the above. Okay, moving to the introduction of the data protection. Now, why it is important to be part of a role, data protection officer role, and why it is needed in the company. Now, you understand that there are a lot of data has been collected. I'm talking about personal data. Now, many a times I've been asked, so data means what? It can be uh, intellectual property data or any other data. What kind of data? So when we talk about data protection officer, they purely works on the individual's data, the personal information that has been collected stored and processed constantly within the company. You can be a controller or you can be a processor in that cases. So in such cases, you need to understand the importance of data. Now, many times I tell that people that data is you know, a fuel which needs to be processed in such a way that we get a good output of it. And if you do not handle the fuel or rather hazardous chemical, you can get caught fire and there can be a lot of things can go wrong. So you need to understand how you process such data, how you correctly uh, you know you know filter those data, keep the correct data with you. So all that's are important, and even if such things happens, if your data gets compromised at any point of time, there are a lot of repercussions come across. Now, having said that, there are legal obligations that comes across. You pay fines to it, but more and above, you need to understand your reputation goes for strike. Your if you are a listed company or company stocks goes down, the trust that the client and uh, and your business have on you, that goes down, and that makes a major change in your company operations. So it's a very important that we have to protect the data while we process the data, and there's need of a data protection of the data that we have been collected. Now there are a lot of changes happens on there's concerns that comes into picture. The evolution of data that we have grown from phase that where we are used to collect data in a memory card or in a pen drive to where we are storing data on clouds and everywhere. Now there's a lot of data that goes across on a daily basis that we process. Now there brings a lot of concerns onto it. There are privacy concerns and modern day-to-day regulations concerns. Today you have to follow GDPR, and tomorrow there is a change in the GDPR regulations. You need to follow that. And over and above, if you are using an AI system, then you need to follow AI regulations also. If some countries where AI regulations come across, so you need to understand that privacy concerns are not just a single document that is to be followed. There are multiple things that has to be looked upon to it, and the security of the same data is equally important to pull across. Now, moving to the next slide, the role of a DPO. What we do, we we ensures that the company organization's compliance with the data protection laws are ensured. So whether you are some regulatory bodies talk about DPDP, we have our or we will have our regulatory bodies who would be always might ask regularly questions on how the data has been processed or any kind of information from the processor or from the controller. In such cases, we need to make sure that we as an organization able to answer all the queries and give a show the authorities that how we are processing the data. So as a DPO, it's very important that you bring in the compliance part along with the security of the data. So how do you do that? You got to educate employees. The employees, we always believe the employees is one of the weakest link in the company. So you need to make sure that you go to train them in such way they understand the value of each and every individual understand the value of data, and they do all that is required to protect the organization's data which have been collected from various other sources. And we have to make sure that once the data has been collected, the proper protection of the data is also been has to be put across. Now, there are a lot of things that goes across the market where encryption comes across, various type of encryption that protects the data. Now, once you've done all that, you need to monitor and do audit, on a regular basis to make sure that your compliance that you've been trying to abide by is being followed across each and every second of the day. And you need to report back to the management that to give confidence that the privacy program that you have been running as a DPO is what is going smooth, and they don't need to worry about. So they will be least assured that at least on the front of data protection and data that the company is collecting and processing has been done in with a ethical way, and they can look for something, or they can look for a different angle, rather than worrying about the data protection regulations across. Now, I would take you through this slide, which shows in each of the countries where and how the DPO's role has been called out. Now, India, obviously, if you go through a DPDP Act, Section 10 calls about the DPO's role. Now, you may say that not all companies should have it, only significant data fiduciaries should have it. But I see a different way. I see that every organization should consider themselves as an SDF, because we do not have a category of who is SDF, who is DF. I'm talking about significant data fiduciary and data fiduciary. So in that case, it's very important that think everyone should think as a significant data fiduciary, that so you're doing something more than that. So under Section 10 of India's DPDP Act, India called out that we need to have a DPO. And similarly, various other regulations that you see, European Union, that is GDPR, you have UK, you have US, Canada, Australia, Brazil, South Korea, Singapore, Japan. And if you go more and more each and every regulations, somewhere or other way, you can say that there is a call out of a data protection officer or a protection officer or someone who should be responsible for doing such a related job. So that makes an importance that having a DPO is a legal obligations at some time, but sometime you need to have it because of bringing confidence to your clients and customers. Okay, moving to the next, the legal framework and the compliance that we were referring in the previous slide. So the framework, as because of GDPR, CCPA, different organizations, different regulations where you are serving. You have GDPR, you have CCPA, HIPAA, and LGBT and all. But there are apart from that, there are few other compliance also that we have to take care of. For example, you have collected the data, you have done all your privacy compliance done, but you need to put a security part to it. But how to do that? You need to have ISO 27001 and followed by ISO 20001 to make sure that you are compliant on the processing and security of the data. So legal frameworks and compliance both works together while you are making sure you build trust with the customer. And these are the few of the regulations that you have to comply with. And as a DPO, we have to make sure that you are understanding the privacy principles and also bringing in regular controls in between to protect the data before the data goes to an unethical person who would provide process the data to get something out of it which we do not want in the market. All right. As a responsibility, I talked about a very small part in the initial slide that what the responsibility of a DPO comes across. But let me go deep dive into it. Regulatory license, starting one, that is the regulatory compliance that the DPO has to abide by the where the data has been collected from the data subject or data principal, whichever you call it out. It can be GDPR for Europe. You can call for DPDP in India. Moving to the next is a vendor compliance check. The vendor is one of the most weakest link because you are in sitting out in a different state in India, and your vendor is a far 1,000 kilometers or 2,000 kilometers away from you. How do you ensure that the compliance have been done? So you need to build a process to have to evaluate your vendors with various due diligence check to make sure that the vendor can be onboarded to take your data from you to process it. So they becomes a very important role. The data processor and data controller, the agreement between both becomes an important agreement to held them responsible while they process the data. So in that case, I always believe that a vendor becomes one of the weakest link for us, and we have to keep a check at every instance that goes across. Third, managing DSR, or you could call it as a DPR, data subject rights or data principal rights, where as a DPO, we have to make sure that when the data subject requests something, we need to abide by it because these are the also regulations that have been called out in the local regulations that you abide by, that I'm referring as a GDPR or DPDP. Now, next is, as I told you earlier, also that employee and vendor is one of the weakest thing I feel. So we have to make sure that employees' privacy training has to be done to each and every time when new employees have been onboarded, and also you need to do yearly trainings for the employees to make sure that they understand the importance of privacy and pick it up from the day one and they do not make mistakes, because tomorrow you cannot be everywhere, but the employees are be processing data from everywhere and anywhere, and you have to make sure that if your employees are not being trained, you won't be able to build a strong privacy framework within the company. And all this is, you have now, you what you have done is you have taken care of the people. Now you're talking about the process, which is your privacy policy implementation. You need to build policies which talks about how you collect the data, why you collect the data, what you will be doing about the data, and how long you will be keeping the data. So there are various things, and obviously security of the data comes in a very important pertinent topic when you are collecting the data. So that all thing has to be part of the privacy policy. So if in case your company is having a website where they're collecting data from cookies, you need to have a cookies policy. So similarly, if you are having terms and conditions out to it, where after taking the data, how do you process it, you can have a terms and conditions to it. So a privacy policy also give trust with your clients and obviously with your employees while you're collecting the data. And you have to make sure that as a DPO, you need to bring in such policies onto the plate. And this is something that you have to uh, make sure that it is easy to understand and it is easily accessible for people or for data subjects to view the privacy policy, they to build the trust that why the data has been collected. The sixth, not the last, I would say, the responsibilities of a DPO is the risk and audit. You have multiple audits like DPA, impact assessment. You have transfer impact assessment. You have ROPA, record of processing activities. So all that you do, and you obviously, if you are a new DPO at an organization, you will start with the gap assessment. So all that you're talking about comes under risk and audit assessment. This you try to mitigate the or sorry, you try to minimize the risk rather than completely mitigating the risk at all. So these are the few key responsibilities of the DPO that you can see on the screen are becomes an important part and parcel of the DPO's life when they are being onboarded or they are being part of a company where they have to make sure that they are being compliant of the regulations. Okay, now I was talking about the skills and competencies. Obviously, as a DPO, you need to. I see the DPO's role is more of a technological call because you need to have a little bit of technical knowledge, and obviously you need to understand the regulations of where you are processing the data. So I see this as a techno-legal call where you need to be having experience on or expertise on global privacy laws, and then followed by your risk assessment management because you need to do risk analysis of your data, and you have to risk assessment of your vendor also. So there are risk assessment and management comes across one of the key things under the skills. We also have to have a cross-functional collaboration because you cannot sit and at a solo locations and saying that I'm running a DPO function. You have to be get into all the businesses that comes across within the company, whether it's all about sales, HR, admin, anything and everything that goes across. You make sure that you have to be part of it. Now, why I say that you have to be a cross-functional collaboration. Now, understand that being a cross having a cross-functional collaboration, you get to know how an HR is collecting the data. You can build a confidence with the HR folks. Now, next comes across your admin. You need to make sure that if you do not know how your admin is sharing the data, then that doesn't work out. You have to make sure that you get involved with such kind of functions also. So a cross-functional functional collaboration is very important in such cases. Obviously, next coming across one of the key competencies would be data protection policy, the policy that I was referring to by the previous slides, the how we the data is being protected once the data has been collected and been processed. So you got to understand how do you build in data data encryption at rest, data encryption at transfer or at the storage. So you got to understand all that in the data protection policy and the implementation of data protection of the data being collected. Now, next is data security knowledge. The data security knowledge, I would say the basic data security knowledge is very much important to being a DPO because if you do not suggest what needs to be done, how we will ask your CIO or CISO to implement such security solutions. So if you cannot say that you need to have a DLP or data leak protection functions, then you would not be able to say to your CISO that you need such solutions at the organization level. So I believe that you need to have a bare minimum of knowledge on data security, because if you are not able to provide solutions to your CISO as a being a DPO, you would not be able to help him to drive the complete data privacy framework within the company. Compliance and auditing, obviously, once you process, you are maintaining your privacy framework and you are implementing your data privacy framework, you got to be audited and you have to comply with the regulations. Now, being audited is a very important thing for your function, to make sure that you portray that what you are saying and what you have been doing. So that brings in confidence to all your employees or also your clients and customers, that you're just not talking on paper, but you're actually implementing them. So audit reports build trust within the customers and the clients. Now, all that you has to be it has to be prepared and provided reports to for others, for other clients and customers, to be seen from your portal. Now, why I say that? Now, if in case if you are a data processor, now if you are ISO 27001 certified, you got to say to your clients and your customers that we are 27701 certified, which give them confidence that the data that they have shared with you are being processed with the regulations that have been audited under ISO 27001 or 27701 in fact. Or next is incident response and breach plan. This is your something that you always prepare for when something goes wrong, or you need to be so active that you provide your incident or breach response to the activity that would have gone wrong. Now think as a incident when there is a data breach happened and you do not have a response plan ready with you, then it will be haphazard. You don't know whom to contact, you don't know how what to be acted on. And if there is a regulation to report to the authorities by 72 hours, like in case if it's in India, within 6 hours you have to report to the certain. So in such cases, that how you react to it if you do not have an incident response plan or breach response plan ready within the organization. So this is also one of the policies that has to be part of it, and you need to do a trial run also within the company to make sure that the people are aware what needs to be done when there's an incident or data breach happens, and how they react to it. Because you need to understand that various regulations do tell that you need to inform the customers or data subjects after the data being if your data being compromised. Now, if you do not have the response plan, you will not be able to know that when to be informed and when not to be informed, or what to be informed and how to be informed. So if you do not have a process built upon that, then you tend to miss those step also. And tomorrow, if this happens, the data subject can go back to the authorities saying that this the processor didn't process the data, didn't inform me, or the data controller didn't inform me if the data has been compromised, and that can lead to various fines in fact. And last but not the list, the stakeholders advisory skills. Because you there are if a company is a global DPO, there are multiple other regulations going across from various other geographic location, and you're sitting in one location. How do you make sure that you provide or you able to get those knowledge? So you need to have certain advisory skills that to be collected and being shared to the local folks when you are implementing your data privacy framework. Let me explain it in a different example. Now, think example as a DPO from India, and there's something goes across in Singapore, and you do not know the Singapore data privacy laws, how to be done, what to be done. In such cases, you need to have the advisory team from where you can get the skills, what need to be done, because you can read the regulations, but on the local ground you need to get help from various other people from local to understand how the things have been done and how the things has to be implemented. So in that case, I've always believed that as a stakeholder you need to have advisory skills or obtain the advisory skills from various other uh, forums or various other platforms and get give the skills. In such cases, in market there are many tools are being available where you can get advisory skills or advisory help, and then that can help you to run the data privacy framework in a complete with a full compliance, because you do not have your own expertise but you're also getting help from your different expertise skills. Okay, challenges obviously, we as a DPO there are a lot of challenges that comes across. There's a regular change in the compliance regulations, the privacy regulations comes across. So there is a you need to abide by the local regulations also over and above the bigger picture also. So for example, if you are in a country where you have to abide by GDPR, you have to abide by GDPR, but you need to understand there are various local regulations comes across. From countries like Switzerland, they have their own, Germany have their own, but they also follow GDPR. So in that cases, you just not to follow GDPR, but you have to comply with the local regulations also. So as a DPO, you need to be well adversed with what goes in the market and what is the change in the compliance area and what needs to be picked up from there. So that is one of the biggest challenge that comes as a DPO, and I'm sure many DPOs are having the similar kind of challenges. And you need to just not study one regulations, you need to look for maybe various other regulations. Next is a cross-border transfer. Yes, this becomes a major challenge when your cross-border transfers happens across. Now, let me explain a little bit more on the cross-border transfer. So there are various ways the data can be transferred to the third parties for processing, which can be under the SCC standard contractual clauses, or can be transferred if you have a binding corporate rules, or there's a third way. If as from Europe, I'm talking about from Europe standpoint, if in case there are 14 countries have been named as an adequate countries by GDPR authorities. If you're transferring the data to those 14 countries and the processing is happening from there, then you don't need to worry about it. But what if you are not from part from these 14 countries? You are part from those other countries where you need to have a standard contractual clauses. So in that cases, you need to build a strong contractual clauses to make sure the the processor and the controller is being binded in a legal agreement while the data is being transferred to the processor to process it. So that brings your one of the major challenges, the cross-border data transfer. Next, I was referring to the earlier one, the incident response, because you don't know when you should report the data breach, and if your data breach response plan is not ready, you will be going away as in what actions to be done. So incident response plan and regulatory reporting is one of the biggest challenge that we face. When to report, how to report, because if in case there's a data compromise happened at your end and you need to work within, there's a fire in your house, either you put water on the house, or you start telling people that there's something went wrong at my house. So how do you deal with that? That is a challenge that comes across as a DPO. So incident response and regulatory reportings at various level and various stages becomes an important topic and an important challenge for a DPO to run the business. Fourth, and one of the things that I was talking about earlier, also employees is one of the weakest link, preventing employees privacy mishandling, and that can be tackled by if the trainings have been done. Now, if in case the trainings have been not been properly done with the employees, they tend to miss that. So preventing employees privacy mishandling is one of the biggest challenge, because you keep on uh, you keep on updating your employees that what to be done, what not to be done. So one of the challenges of you as a DPO is thinking about the employees' privacy, how they are following to the privacy regulations, and what they have been doing at that end. And fifth, I already talked about the vendor and third party compliance, because if you are part of if your company is in one part of the world and your vendor is another part of the world, you don't know how do you maintain them, how do you audit them, because if you say them to audit themselves, they tend to give you a wrong audit. If you tell them to if you tell them, then you'll be auditing them, Then it also becomes a challenge if you have so many vendors. How to pick up which vendor you will audit them? You either spend money and get them, or get a hire some third party who audit them and give you the report, or you have to live by the fact that they are ethical and what they are saying they are doing on the face value also. So sometimes it becomes a challenge because either you have to audit each of the vendors, because wherever the data has been collected and processed by the vendors, it becomes a challenge in such cases. So one of the biggest challenges in such cases, being a DPO, is maintaining a secured or compliant third-party vendors. So why companies needs a DPO? Obviously, I talked about that in my previous slide where we showed you that the regulations and 7 8 regulations, if I'm not wrong, and which regulations calls out that being having a DPO. Now, obviously, these are the ones because of regulations, but also as a as a overall, if you see that a DPO, we bring sure that legal and regulatory compliance are being secured within the company. We prefer that the data privacy risk is been reduced, and obviously there's a customer and stakeholders trust gets higher when you have a DPO because they are protecting the data being collected. So that brings a that adds a value within the company, and that has been looked at a positive way by all stakeholders and customers. We license, being a DPO, we license between the company and data subject and with the authorities to exchange emails and exchange our response when there is a data that get breached. So if in case you are a DPO, you get to avoid financial penalties and make sure your company has been compliant with that, and you tend to fight for it, and you can showcase that what went wrong and what was it from your end or was it from some other's end that went wrong, and you can as a DPO can showcase excuse me, what are the positive that you have been doing and how you are trying to comply in the this is something that has been looked in the authorities, that authorities would see that this the DPO from this company is doing good, and they're trying to avoid any financial penalties. But in case if something goes wrong, then obviously they have to pay it, or if the authorities have decided to let you pay that money, then you have to pay. But in case as a DPO, you tend to put your point also in such cases. So that's the reason, one of the reason that the companies have a DPO. And as a DPO, we tend to implement data protection strategies, and that is something we work into the collaboration of various other teams within the company to protect the data. Okay, this is something many people ask me that how do I start my journey? How do I build being a DPO? So obviously, being a DPO is not an overnight job that you be a DPO from tomorrow itself. There are so many things that you have to come across. You have to have a knowledge on where the various regulations where the data is being processed, followed by your technical knowledge that I was referring to. You need to build security frameworks onto it. You need to have experience on or knowledge on at least basic knowledge on the tools and applications that are being used in being compliant. Also, there are so many certifications that come across: CIPP, CIPPM. They are ISO 27001, 27701, and the, in case if you are someone who which company process a lot of data via AI, then you need to have ISO 42001 also. So various regulations come across, certifications will be applicable for you to give knowledge, but experience is something that will have to go through while you're part of the journey. And as an DPO, or as a thinking to become a DPO, you can start from being an intern at a company level to understand what happens on the company level, because what you see on the books and what you study is not exactly it's been copied out. There are so many ways of doing things at the business level that can only be done if in case you have some kind of internships or compliance roles, you're part of it, where you get to work close to the DPO and understand how the DPO's life is all about. As it, so Apart from that, as a DPO, we have to make sure that we have to a lot of privacy impact assessment to minimize the risk. And as a as a as a fresher or new to this DPO's world, you can understand how the assessment has been done and what kind of risk mitigations controls have been taken across while being part of a DPO. And last not the least, I see this as a very important part. Network with privacy professionals, join groups, be part of conferences, go for events. I mean, in fact, such thing as in you being part of this is also get to know how the life of the DPOs. So in such cases, when you go for industry groups and conferences, you get to learn new things because you would be able to learn what is the best practice going across in such cases, which you cannot sit and learn sitting at home or being part of a company. So engage with different privacy professionals to learn more and see what's going across in the market, because you might not be knowing that few regulations have already came out and you have been not been informed about it. Okay, I was talking about various protection tools. There are few protection tools that have been put across on the screen. These are not the limited ones. There are so many of them. These are the few of the tools that have been used by the DPOs, and they provide a helping hand to run the DPO functions within the company. So this is an ideal reporting structure for a DPO. Many companies doesn't follow this way. Few companies have a different way of putting across. But if I'm talking about an ideal condition, this is how the ideal conditions uh, we see in many companies. So DPO many a times they report to the board of directors. Sometimes they have a chief privacy officer in between also. So DPO reports to CPO. CPO have a or CPO has a seat in the board of directors, so that whatever compliance issues concerning privacy are being reported directly to the boards, and there is no middleman in between that your thoughts or your feedbacks have been taken away, because there are so many people in between. And the DPO have a lot of privacy manager and compliance team to take care of the privacy function. So they report to the DPO, and obviously at some places there are various privacy champs are being built at various functions. They also come under the DPO's role. So for example, if you have a privacy champion within HR, they can be liaised with the DPO or the compliance team. Because once you do the while you do the DPI impact assessment, ROPA or whatever, in such cases, while you do such exercise or assessments, you need help of IT teams or data security teams of various business functions who can give you input to the privacy managers, and the same can be cascaded to the DPOs and CPOs. Now, let me tell you, this is an ideal scenario. Not every company follows it, but it's always seen as a best thing that the DPO or the CPO reports directly to the board of directors. Oh, like next is privacy culture. Now you say you do so many things, but you need to build a privacy first responsibility functions for within the company to make sure that you have things which can bring in the change in the privacy culture within the company. You awareness is one of the important thing. Privacy by design is a whole lot of topic that we can talk about it. So what needs to be done as a privacy by design approach. So I'll just go through quickly because of the time limitation that we have. So if you have any questions onto it, I'll happy to answer them. But I'm sure this is self-explanatory presentations on the slide that I'm showing across, so I'm not taking through all of them. So privacy awareness training, privacy by design approach, open reporting culture, that is talking about the DPOs or CPOs reporting to the board of directors, have clear data governance policies, how the data is being collected, make sure that you have the correct data while being collected, the data is being deleted once the data has been processed. So such things has to be part of the data governance policies. You need to have uh, transparency in practices. It means that the first principle of data privacy is a lawful fairness and transparency, where you can say that what you collect and what you process. So that practice has to be built across with all the functions. And last and not the least is recognize and reward the compliance that has been done. So something is doing good in the company, make sure you reward them, recognize them, so that they keep on doing the same thing year after year, and every uh, I would say second after second rather than year after year. So, practical approaches for DPOs. So, various places. I was talking about some tools in the previous slide, which is OneTrust, TrustArc, and various other tools. And this is not just the two tools. There are various other tools that has been used at a company level to track the data, and also prepare for the breaches. That is that if prepare for breaches isn't is something that it's after effect that we tend to do, but you have to be prepared for what needs to be done for that. So prepare for breaches, you know, follow ISO or ISO 2001 or NIST compliances, something that is, and conduct risk assessments, train employees on the best privacy factors. These are the ways you can make sure that you try to build a strong privacy framework within the company. And this practical approaches helps the DPOs with the assurance that what we're doing in the company is being compliant. Now, not everywhere that you use applications to track data, or you don't you have applications to comply with privacy framework. Somewhere it has been done on Excel, uh, somewhere it's been done on Word. But let me tell you, nowhere it has been mentioned, or no regulations has been mentioned that you have to run the data privacy principles or the data privacy framework over an application. You can be doing that over an Excel also. So there's no limitation of that also. Okay, future of DPO's role, I see a major, because regulations are changing. The hackers are getting more trained than the normal person. So you got to make sure that how you are making sure the data is being protected and within the organization. So change in the new regulations, the ethics comes across. The AI is one of the biggest challenge while we process data, because we don't know if the biasness has been put across, taken care in such cases. So all that are future for DPO's role. I understand higher salaries and niche roles should come across after the DPO's role has become mandatory for all the companies. But in such cases, you need to make sure that not just having a DPO within the companies can make your life easier. The DPOs has to have uh, strong power to roll out, implement process policies and technologies which will help them to protect the data. But if in case the DPO have been just doing the operational work, you will not be able to maintain a strong data privacy framework. Okay, and talking about the global and compliance challenges, no doubt about that. There are so many regulations coming across, and to be compliant with each and every regulations is the future of the DPO, and it keeps the DPO always busy to learn each and every day that what I don't know what's going to come next day. All right, I hope I was able to give you a small snippet of DPO's role. Let me check with some people, because I've been talking for last 30-40 minutes. Let me take a quick break and see how much did you understand, and what do you believe out of this four options that you see on this of the question. Who should a DPO ideally report to in an organization to ensure independence? I'm sure I have shown this slide and I've talked a lot about that. And let me see if you guys have seen this slide. It's pure attention, and we'll see what you talk about. Kushit, if you can see what others are replying.
Yes, so I think audience are yet to reply on the chat box. We have
Okay.
got one response as of now, that is B. I would request other also to, participate in this. Another one we got C. C.
So in question one, there's a word which is very important, and the word is ideally. Look for the word ideally, and you'll get the answer.
Most of the people have guessed it C.
Right, exactly. The board of director or the CEO, yes. So even my slide was referring to the same thing. Yes, in ideal condition, let me quote once again, it's an ideal condition, not everywhere it has been followed across. Okay, yeah, the correct answer is C. Let's see this one. Which of the following statements about a DPO is false? Should mark the one which is false.
Again, we are getting the answer as C.
Yes, exactly. The answer to this is not C. This case, this is A. A DPO should be can be held personally liable for any organization. That is the false one. I mean, refer to the what is the false one, not B, C, D are the true ones. The false ones was A. All right. Moving to the next. Which of the following is the primary responsibility of DPO? Primary responsibility. Now,
We are getting the answer as A and C both.
marketing strategies. How? Why would a DPO be interested or have been asked to make sure that what is a marketing strategies has to be compliant on? I don't see managing IT security tools because we have CISO to do it. I don't see approving marketing strategies because we have sales to do it. Handling customer service inquiries, we have customer support team to do it. So that left with answer B, ensuring compliance with the data protection law. Okay, next, a DPO must have expertise in which of the following areas? So I'm sure people are asking or putting across ACD something.
Yes, B is the answer.
Right, cybersecurity encryptions. DPOs can support, but the main responsibility of how to implement and where to implement, when to implement is all about the CISO's team does it. The cloud computing and DevOps, the IT team is the ones who does it, and sales and marketing. Obviously, the sales and marketing team does it. It's left with the B, for data protection laws and compliance. Uh, so the crux of being a DPO is to make sure that you protect the data in compliance with the local regulations. Okay, what is the main reason compliance hire companies hire a DPO? Is it A, handle IT infrastructure? I'm sure it's not. C, to monitor employees' performance. We have HR team to do it. To manage financial transactions, we have a finance team within the company to take care of it. So the answer to this would be B. I'm sure people would have marked B. Okay, moving to the. So that's all that I have. I have good amount of 10 minutes for people to ask questions. Let me see.
Yes, so I'll tell you the questions that we have received so far in the chat box. So the very first question is, can CISO be DPO?
Yes, many times we see CISOs will be working as a DPOs, but understand that what is the roles of a CISO and what is the role of a DPO. It becomes tough for a CISO to act as a DPO. I have a different opinion. I always say that there is a roles, two different roles, and two different people should do it. CISO is the person
Tell you
who
the
is.
questions.
I'm sorry.
No, no, nothing, nothing.
Okay, so as a CISO, you need to make sure that the data security has been taken care. As a DPO, you protect data by the laws and regulations. So two people or two department has a different role to play. They in many companies they play play both the roles, but ideally the both has to be a different role. The you need to understand what is a CISO does, what is a DPO does, what is a CIO does, and then once you understand all that roles, you will understand that there is a mix when someone is doing something else also. Now if I say, can DPO be a CISO, people would say no. But if you say that, can CISO be a DPO, ideally the answer should be no. But in case many companies cannot have a CISO DPO together, they tend to have both the things within the one function itself. So my answer would be no, it should not be, but it depends on the company to company.
Okay, so the second question is, which is a good certificate for being a DPO?
So I don't know which is good, best, and better. Um, there are so many certifications I was referring to. When you start your journey, you need to understand the business first, and first you need to understand whether you like the professional. If you do not like the profession of being a DPO, there's no point in doing certification after certification. Now, if in case if you're trying to do a certification, you can start first. I always say go to a place where first I say to go to YouTube and understand various other terms and technologies, terms of DPO, where the data, and then from there on you can take on forward to be a to understand whether you like the professional. If you like the professional, then you can think of certification. Certifications, there are IIPP is one of them who provides a lot of certification. There is a TUB certifications that they provide one on data protection. So various other certification body provide certification. You cannot say which is good and which is better, but I always start people saying that go to YouTube, see if you like the role. If you do not like the role, don't jump on its role, because tomorrow, if you don't like the role, you want to come out of the role, which will be different, a challenge for you to shift from here and there. So, if in case if you are not sure that to be part of it, do not get into this.
Great, thank you. And the next question is, do we need a legal background for this role?
I am an engineer by graduate. I am also the global DPO. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so the next one is cybersecurity courses should lawyer can pursue as a DPO?
So there is no limitation that you cannot pursue them. You if you have intention to learn, why not? The sky is the limit. You can learn your cybersecurity being a lawyer. There are many very good cybersecurity lawyers in the market who tend to do great jobs, and they have gone through the cybersecurity trainings to understand the business, understand the cybersecurity fundamentals, and then excel in their professional life. So why not? You can.
Okay, so the last question is, what are the certifications in terms of Indian DPDP Act?
So there is no certification, gov- government approved certifications that says that you are now a DPDP certified DPO. In that case, you need to make sure that have to you have to go through regulations, the DPDP Act, thoroughly, each and every clauses by articles, by sections. You have to be thorough with it so that you understand what is the ask from it, and then you can implement some. You can be a DPO with the mindset of what is the DPDP Act is talking all about. Now, let me tell you one more thing, that if you see that GDPR as a mother of all privacy regulations, then from there on, if you are compliant or if you have studied GDPR, from there on, if you pick up DPDP, it won't be tough to understand the DPDP from there on. So I would say that if your intention is very clear that you would like to know more about the DPDP Act, then study the, the Act altogether, and the rules that has come across. Read the rules and understand how the rules are complying with the Act that has come across.
Okay. So the next question is with ISO 27001 can be a DPO?
I have done ISO 27001. That this doesn't stop you to become not becoming DPO or rather becoming a DPO. There are many people who have done ISO 27001 certification and they are now a security auditor. They information security lead auditor. They audit the security part. It will help you, but it will not give you a guarantee role that you become a DPO after being after completion of ISO 27001 certification.
Okay, great, Tanin. Thank you for answering all the questions and thank you for your valuable time for taking out, this webinar. So thank you everyone for contributing to making this today's webinar a great success and special appreciation to you, Tanin, for delivering such an insightful and engaging session. Your expertise in the privacy field provided a valuable clarity to us. And to our incredible audience, thank you for staying with us. And if you have any questions or you are interested in taking the next steps in your privacy journey, so I'll be dropping one form in the comment section and I would request you to kindly fill it out. And once again, thank you for your time, participation, and enthusiasm, everyone. Thank you, Tanin.
Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye bye.